Okay, in today's video, I've come across a box of, I think I'm pronouncing it right, Kynoch 577450 Martini-Henry cartridges. Okay, now these are from the original factory, I believe in Birmingham, England, and they were loaded, I don't know how long. I believe part of the company still exists. When they actually stopped like making all of this, or when they kind of changed over the business, I'm not quite sure. But got a box of original ammo from 1949, and we're going to take it apart and look at it and find out a little bit more about this cartridge. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here on the box to show you. 577-450 solid Martini-Henry rifle cartridges. Now note this, smokeless powder, solid lead bullet, 480 grains. There's 10 of them in the box. So this is a smokeless powder load for the Martini-Henry, which a lot of people, when they ask me about reloading for this and that, there's a lot of people out there that leave comments, only use black powder and black powder cartridge guns. Well, obviously this is another cartridge we find. This is a original cartridge from the factory made for the guns that uses smokeless powder. Now, we go on the back here and look at the box. There is a date, 11/49. So 1949 these cartridges were made. So let's see what we got. This one here, the box is a little bit beat up on it. So I had to be careful with it. I had to tape it back up. But we'll get, let me get it out. Okay, here's our cartridges. It's the box broke over the years, so it was difficult to get it out of the outer container. Now, the cartridges come wrapped in a wax paper of some sort, and they're not terrible condition. A little bit of corrosion starting to get on these. And if you notice, these are solid lead bullet with a paper patch. There's the wax paper. It didn't get crinkled up. So there are 10 cartridges wrapped in wax paper, and what we have is a smokeless powder load with a lead bullet and a paper patch. So when I found these, it kind of gave me an idea, maybe coming up with a new way of reloading for this. A lot of people use black powder. There are all kinds of bullet molds out there that are replications of the original cartridge, bullet, style bullet, and all that other stuff. But it looks like paper patching is something I'm going to have to do to get some of the other rifles to shoot correctly and well. And here we go. We have an example of it from 1949. Smokeless powder, brass case, lead bullet, paper patch. So let's take a look at it. And I have a brass case. And this is another problem that one of the reasons I kind of stayed away from this cartridge. This is a Jameson brass case, which was probably the most reasonably priced. They went out of business. These were not cheap, but they're not made from those shotgun shells, which is kind of flimsy. But I'll discuss that in another video, and pros and cons, all that. But getting good brass is hard unless you go with Bertram, where you're going to spend $130 or more for 20 pieces of brass. So that's kind of why I stayed away from doing much with this cartridge. But we'll look at the Jameson case and compare it to the case from the factory ammo, dimension-wise, and see what we end up with. Alright, let's see what we got here. I'm going to start with the Jameson empty case. we're looking at 662 thousandths at the base diameter. The factory round is 662 thousandths less. All right, and then what do we got here to taper up close to the neck is 629, which we have 629. Go with rim diameter. Jameson, rim diameter is 743. The factory round is 751. A little bit bigger on the rim diameter. Yes, 42, 43, 51. Rim thickness on the factory cartridge, 46 thousandths. Rim thickness on a Jameson, 46 thousandths. So that's right in there. I'm not going to do the overall length till I pull the case. So the thing that gets me is when you look at these two side by side, this shoulder is a little bit different than this one. This shoulder is set back further and doesn't have this taper on it like this brass. So when you fire this, this is going to move forward much like the 303 brass kind of does. I guess the British did that. They made something that would drop into a chamber at any point. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to look at where this starts here, which is about 1 inch 400 thousandths, and this also starts there, but the angle of this is much different. In other words, this neck goes straighter back where this tape kind of ends at 540. This one here, this shoulder kind of stops around 1 inch 660, which as you can see, the shoulder on this one, about 540. So there's a bit of a difference there. Then we'll go for the neck diameter, which is 502, and our neck diameter here is 490, which probably isn't loaded with a bullet, so that there. All right, now I'm going to pull her apart and we'll figure out what we got for a bullet, what kind of powder we have in there, and all the other fun stuff. Alright, I've gotten the bullet out and most of the paper patch. There appears on the lower end to be a sort of a sealant put in there, and on part of the patch that didn't quite stay with the bullet, you can also see that grayish material on there, part of a sealant. And there is still the underfolded section of the patch stuck in the case. And we see the bullet there. It was crimped in. You can see the lines of the crimp of the mouth. And then I believe where this, let me get it over here. You can see where the case mouth was crimped, and there's another area that was crimped also. Zoom in on that for you. Get a better look at them. Make sure I'm focused. Not quite focusing. Ah, there. But here is where the case mouth was, and then there's another line in here which I believe was this, which is about where the base of the bullet is there. So with this there, we're going to pull this out, pull the rest of the paper patch out of there. Usually when you dissect these patched bullets, the paper patch over all these years does not, there's a hunk of it there. It's not quite make it. Well, let me do this. You get the idea what I'm doing. Let me do this and I'll get back. Okay, underneath the paper, and there is some sort of sealant because it's in there pretty good, I believe is a wad of some sort, either cardboard or felt. And I will pry it out, but what I want to do first is I want to look at the bullet and the weight. So we'll get our scale running here. In grains. $4.81. So that paper patch, $4.82, adds about 2 thousandths to the, get that back to where you can see it. Probably the bullet is, as it says on the box, 480. But the paper patch and other material probably adds a little more to it. So right for the moment, I'm going to take the bullet out of the way, and then we're going to try to pry out the cardboard and get it to powder. Okay, with the bullet and paper material out of the way, I'm going to see if I can get up with this scribe underneath the cardboard wad. Yeah, paper. I did. And I don't believe I'm going to be able to salvage it. In there, it broke through. It's not that thick, but whatever the sealant is, this is sealed. Try to fish that out, but I think I've lost the cardboard wad, and that's what it is. It's cardboard wad in there. If I can get a corner of it to get an idea of the thickness of it. And as you can see down in there, a cardboard wad, it's all glued in there. Let me try getting a flashlight. Okay, with the bullet and paper material out of the way, I'm going to see if I can get up with this scribe underneath the cardboard wad. Yeah, paper. I did. And I don't believe I'm gonna be able to salvage it. In there, it broke through. It's not that thick. But whatever the sealant is, this is sealed. Try to fish that out, but I think I've lost the cardboard wad, and that's what it is. It's cardboard wad in there. If I can get a corner of it to get an idea of the thickness of it. And as you can see down in there, a a cardboard wad, it's all glued in there. Let me try getting a flashlight. Alright, after some prying, there was a second wad. I believe the first one disintegrated, and then I ended up with this second wad here. So now we have something to measure for thickness in that. It's a fiber wad of some sort, cardboard. Looks very much like the one that disintegrated in there, and they are waxed. So it was probably a double wad inside the case neck. Now I'm going to probe down in there and see if I can get the powder out. Oh yeah, just as I thought. Cordite. That's what they're using. I haven't seen this in a long time. Strands of cordite. That's what's in there. In World War II, a lot of the 303 British cartridges had this stuff in there. And that's what it is. Long strands of powder. And they're packed in there like a bunch down inside. They're packed in. So let's see if we can dump them out now. There we go. There we go. There it is. All right, so we'll go and we'll try to weigh this, see what we come up with as a charge weight. Okay, so what I'm going to do just basically now is, since I got this stuff off, I'm just going to pile it on, and this is in grains, what the charge is inside there of this. There's a hunk of wad in there. I'm not going to get that. I'm just going to look at how much of this stuff is in there. I don't know if this type of powder is even made anymore. Get that out of there. Almost got it. Okay, so we're looking at a charge of about, and it's probably in, I don't know if Imperial, if they use grains or whatever, but there it is. And it looks like 37.7, 37.5. I don't know if you can see the scale number down there, but that's about what it is with this type of propellant, which is, let me get one here, get a closer look at the fine strand of this cordite. Okay, so now I'm going to put away the propellant charge and preserve it. Alright, so it's our propellant charge. 37.5, 37.7. Now, as for the wad, I did salvage one. So the wad in thickness appears to be about 93 thousandths thick. And the diameter, and this is greased, or has a lubricant. 4 and rough 460. Yep, 460 thousandths in diameter. So there were 2 of these. One of them underneath the bullet disintegrated into this. And I can't tell because, see, I was picking at it. So you had a double wad underneath the base of the bullet. So what I am going to do now with this, get this wadding in here, salvage it, and then we're going to look at the bullet a little closer, kind of wrap this up. We already determined that it is the weight that they said it was. And these bullets were probably stamped on there. I'm going to peel the rest of this off because I can always measure a cartridge to figure out how much the diameter from the paper patch. It's pretty brittle. Alright, there must have been something permeated in the patch because it's still sticking on there. Whatever. Probably a little bit of it on the bottom. So there's your bottom, which has a hollow base. You have 2 of them cantilever grooves and then another groove. So this is probably a pressed, machined bullet. It was made on a, stamped out. And there's your base to where you could fold up your paper patch. So the diameter of the bullet itself is 463 thousandths about. Now see, it's stepped also. Okay, up here on this section, we're about 460 thousandths in diameter. 400, a little bit more. It could have got slugged or bumped when I knocked it out. Now we go under, in between the 2 grooves there. Now we drop down to 458, and at the base, the very base of this bullet, we are 454 thousandths. So this thing is kind of tapered in the back. Let me see what it's up here. So it's something else to study. 454. So I could have, when I bumped it out, let's take a look at one of these cartridges. What we get from one that we have not messed with. Okay, a little under 440, and on the paper groove, now we're going to 472 when we hit the area where it is patched with paper. Okay, so that's something I'm going to have to calculate when I think about paper patching these. There, so you see that's where you're getting your bullet diameter up with the paper patch. But that's what all of that is, and we'll gather up these fragments and I'll bag them in here in a minute. But now let's go look at the case. We went over the dimensions of the case earlier with the live round. And looking down in there, this is it appears to be a boxer primed, or maybe Barrett-in, I'm not quite sure. There's 2 little flash holes. It's some sort of balloon head, and it appears to be Barrett-in primed. It looks like there's a mound, 2 little tiny flash holes like a balloon head, so it must be that there is a primer anvil built right into this case. So these cases probably are not reloadable. And cordite, I don't believe there's a modern equivalent to cordite. I don't know if you could see if I try to shine this down there. I don't think that's going to work. But that's what the case looks like. Now the last thing I wanted to check is the overall length compared to the Jameson. My overall length here is 2 inch 320 thousandths, and on the Jameson case it is 2 inch 326 thousandths as compared to there's about an 10 thousandths difference. Now this one's reading 2 inches 318 thousandths. Okay, this one's a little bit, 20, depending on where you hit it. This one's a little bit shorter. And again, I'll try to show you how those shoulder dimensions are different. Okay, and I don't have anything I've run up the lead die to see if it'll fit. But it looks like this original case is made undersized for any chamber variances, much like the 303 ammo is always made a little bit, I think, shorter with the shoulder back, because it head spaces off the rim, so the shoulder net is not critical. And when you manufacture this was probably manufactured straight. They put that long cordite would be packed in there like a tube, and then they crimp this neck and then do all the other stuff. And a lot of your 303 brass, you can see that's probably what it was. It was a straight tube. They put that stick powder or whatever this cordite is down in there, and then they would form, probably machinery would form the neck, and then a bullet was seated and it would be crimped with just like 2 punches on there. Some of the old 303 ammo, because they never really intended to reload any of this. This was all going on a one-way trip. Okay, so maybe there's a way to reload it. Maybe they had tools to do this. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in this area, because this cartridge was used as a safari big game cartridge for many years afterwards. That's why they made that. Ammunition was still being made at that point in time. You know, this was a big game cartridge and very popular in a lot of the colonies Great Britain had. Okay, and they were all over the world, Africa, whatever. So this cartridge has seen a lot of use in a lot of different countries, and probably even to this day. Okay. So that's about it with the cartridge. I'm going to preserve all of this, and then if I start to reload, I'm going to use these things for reference and try to get an idea of how I can replicate this. We're not going to be able to replicate this powder. I don't even know if this is used anymore, or if it is. See, I don't even know how to reference this stuff. Okay. But probably it looks like paper patching a bullet. I don't know if I would try to shoot any of these cartridges. There is a tad bit of corrosion on them. I don't know if they'll go off. And really, I think their value as a collector's item is worth a little more than trying to shoot them. And now that I have an example to go by, we can try maybe in the future to replicate some kind of load, or use this as a base for a load. But it appears I'm going to have to start learning to paper patch and buy some molds and make some paper patch style bullets. I know a company I can get them made for the different calibers, because I believe the French Gras and the German 43 and the Verndl 43 all probably. We'll see if the paper patch bullet's the way to go. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and that's our look at our Kynoch 577-450 Henry Martini cartridges from 1949.